Welcome, everyone. This is Coffee Talk with Julie and Nate, number 17. Thank you so much for joining us or watching us after the fact. I know some people have been watching it on Facebook, so thank you very much for that. And as always, we welcome any questions. We'd love to know what you want to talk about and what you'd like to hear about. If you have anything that you'd like to deal with or anything you'd like some, I guess, advice or facilitating questions about, so let us know. So I'm Nate, and obviously I'm here with Miss Julie. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. You
Good.
know, a lot of people around me are not, because I'm
That's
in
good.
Northern California and there's all these forest fires, and it's actually really, really bad. They don't have it contained. And the air quality is really not good. But the cool thing is that, we have different choices we can make, and we can get into the upset and freak out and, not really contribute to it changing, or we can use these tools. We can ask questions, we can ask for the rain to come, we can ask to contribute to the earth, whatever the earth requires. And
Yeah.
I've been doing DMMD, which is demolecular manifestation, molecular demanifestation, to ask
Mm-hmm.
to clear the smoke in the air. And it's really cool because I can drive around and I can see around my neighborhood. It's much clearer than other places. So I'm like trying to drive around to other places and do that too.
Man, that is such a good reminder. You know, DMMD was one of the very first energetic tools that I learned when I started taking classes. I
Mhm.
mean, I'm not sure that it was in my bars class, but it was absolutely in my foundation class.
Yeah.
And it was um it was so much fun. And I'd say a really good reminder that I haven't used that. It's like I have such a massive toolbox now, and sometimes I kind of forget like the hammer and the wrench. I'm busy using, the fancy stuff.
Right.
And I remember DMMD. I had, man, this was years ago. Um, I had like a growth on my neck, and at the time I was traveling back and forth to Seoul on the bus for like 3 to 4 hours regularly, and the entire time I would be on the bus, I just had like my finger on my neck, and I would run DMMD the whole trip. And I even took photos of it, like
I
from the beginning
remember
stages.
I remember your post about this.
Yeah, it was really cool. And also, like, I've used it since then. And I remember people talking about using DMMD for money or for jobs or for other things. And so, you're using it on the smoke.
Yeah, when I first heard about it, I started using it. I remember we were in Costa Rica, and we were doing this big picnic, like way into the woods. And
Mhm.
some people didn't ride horses, some people went on the Jeep. And on the way back, they had this Jeep, obviously carrying the rest of the people and the food and stuff. And I was on a horse, and I was like really close to the Jeep, and it was, regular gas. It was like all in our faces. And I just remember going, oh, I wonder if I could try DMMD. So I just did it.
Mhm.
You just ask DMMD. And it was like all of the exhaust just dissipated so
Right.
quickly and easily, and we could breathe again. And I thought, this is really cool. And I would play with it in all kinds of things, not just water, but like
And
in a
yeah.
hot tub, if there's too
Hmm.
much chlorine, and the
Yeah.
smell of chlorine would go away. There's so many things we can do. So if everybody just did some DMMD wherever they are and expanded out, across California, I
Yeah.
wonder what that would create.
Yeah. So demolecular manifestation and molecular demanifestation. Um, yeah. We actually, Miguel is watching and has a question, sort of a question. How to make better decisions I think we have a few things to say about that. Would you like to start? Julie, how can I make better decisions?
Oh yes, he's saying asking for rain work too. Yes, and we should keep asking for rain. I know
Yeah,
it's not the rainy season here, and it's not normal for it to rain at this time of year, but you can ask,
sure.
not, and see what will show up instead of like, oh no, there's no rain. It's like, no, ask.
Right.
Um,
And it can be changed. I mean, it can be changed with your ask. All these people, they look at the weather forecast and then they just decide that's what the weather will be like instead of saying what else is possible here. You know, what would it take to change this? And, you know, like you said, ask for rain. Like asking. That's the
yeah,
key.
totally. Let's not underestimate the power of our ask and the energy that we put out into the world. So, tying that into making better decisions, you have to start looking at what is it, like, where are you going and what is it that you're choosing toward? And will this choice bring you there, or is this choice going to take you somewhere else? Is it light and expansive, or is it heavy and contractive? So I would start with that. And if you want to tell us something, you know, specific that you're looking at, we can address that. But
Yeah.
that's where I would start. How about you, Nate?
Well, I mean, for one of the things that's been helpful for me is looking at the difference between a choice and a decision. Like having it be a good decision or the right decision or the wrong decision. Like, because for me and the background that I came out of, it was all about what you should do and being right in everything that you did. And that caused paralysis for me.
Yeah.
Because I would look at something and be like, well, shit, what's the right thing to do? And I had no way to justify a choice or decision, sorry. And then I would make a decision and then it would be, you know, wrong or it would be not so rewarding. And then I would judge myself for fucking up, but I would have to stick with it because that's what I decided. Right. So looking at things as a choice instead of a decision has been such a freedom because it means that you're allowed to change essentially.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, for me, looking at all the processes at the beginning for me that were massive were all the ones about rescind, revoke, recant, reclaim, renounce, destroy, and uncreate, all oath, vow, fealty, swearing, commitment, community, binding and binding contracts. Like all of those are where you're locked in, and giving yourself the freedom to choose and then choose again and choose differently.
Exactly. Once
so,
you choose,
so
you
great.
get more awareness about what that choice creates. So
yeah,
and choose again, choose again. So he just wrote, should I sell or refinance? Number one, I would ask the house. Who does the house or whatever it is that you're looking to sell? Probably a house. You know, what would the house like? Does the house want another person to own? Because you know you don't own the house owns you. So ask the house who it would like, and then you can indulge either of your choices, and you know, give it a day or two or a few hours and see what it feels like. See if it lightens up with that choice, and then make a different choice.
And also, one of the most useful questions I think we've discussed in the last couple episodes is, if I choose this, what will my life be like in 5 years or 100 years? And choose your time frame, but make it more than 5 years, like not 6 months, because you usually try to calculate and compute how it's going to be. Like, okay, if I sell it for this much, I can use the money for this, and then I have to buy a new place and blah, blah, blah. But if you go with an energetic question about what will my life be like in 5 years if I choose this, and you're, you know, what will my life be like in 5 years if I sell the house, and then kind of go into the energy of what that is without thinking it through, because you're not going to come up with a reason or justification for it, and you're not going to be able to justify making that choice. And I mean, sometimes it's really difficult for someone who's always thinking to just say, I'm going to follow the energy. And following the energy will never let you down. Like,
So true.
and
And if
that's,
you can't do it like that, you can ask a friend and give them the options and have them mix it up and
yeah,
ask you back, you know, A, B, or C, and then you choose blindly, but basically you're perceiving the energy of it.
yeah. I think you
That,
talked about this last week with people buying jewelry.
yeah, or
Yeah,
flipping a coin, exactly.
right. Yeah.
Listen to last week's, what was that, 16,
16.
episode 16.
Yeah. And I know that maybe buying a house or selling a house or refinancing a house is, you know, in this reality, that's a much larger financial decision or choice. And looking at it as a choice is really going to lighten it up for you, because you're gonna allow yourself then to, you know, choose to do something today and then sleep on it and wake up the next tomorrow and think like, it's not going to work. So then your choice has then created awareness, and you don't have to judge yourself for what you did yesterday being different from what you did today. So, I mean, there are a lot of different ways you can do this. But, you know, also what's going to be fun for you? I know that sounds also a little bit goofy, but sometimes that has simply been a helpful question for me is this going to be fun? I'm like, oh, no. Actually, tomorrow I was supposed to take a like 3-day trip down to the southern island here. And this was planned a week ago, and I should have bought a ticket already and made a reservation for like scooter reservations and hotel and stuff. And the last few, like the whole week, it just didn't feel like it was not going to be fun. What am I going to do? Bleh. And then, you know, finally the girl that I know, she was like, hey, are you coming? What's going on? And, you know, looking at the weather, there's a huge typhoon coming,
Mm,
and it's going to be raining for the entire 3 days that I would have been there.
mm-hmm.
And so just going with the awareness that it didn't feel fun. I know that sounds
Yeah. It's like you're aware of something and you don't
right.
necessarily know what it is until after the
Yeah.
fact sometimes. I know,
Yeah.
it's funny. I was looking at that I think it was last night, about in January and February. I was looking at March, April, May in my calendars, and I couldn't put anything on them. And I was like, what is up with me? Why can't I schedule things out to March, April, May? And hello, you know, it's a pandemic and there's no travel, and they're like everything was canceled. And so, you know, rather than beating yourself up for feeling weird about something or not making a choice, you can just kind of go with it and relax and ask yourself questions like, okay, well, what am I aware of? We're always wanting to lock it down.
Right.
I think I learned that from my mom. She liked to lock things down.
Yes.
You know, when you come out, where are we going to go to dinner? Where are we going to park? Da, 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 you know, lock it all down
Yeah.
instead of having the
Yeah.
magic and the possibilities and, you know, those serendipitous moments
Yeah.
of
And
fun.
the willingness to be unpredictable, and the willingness for people to judge you for not being like a solid upstanding pillar of the community, which means to me that means solid, boring, predictable,
Yeah.
always following the rules exactly, like just ugh.
And Gloria says life is not life if we have no freedom. And I was uh, I was facilitating one of my Zoom calls last week, and there was a quote from Gary that freedom is choice. Like the ability to choose anything is freedom. So
Right.
where are we limiting our choices? And to go back to Miguel's choice.
Refinance and selling question.
Yeah, it's like you want to, like, before you start asking those questions, because we come from places of decision and judgment and conclusion that we may not have even known that we had, we want to clear all of those first. So you can say all the DJCCs, which are decisions, judgments, conclusions, and computations, destroy and create all that. Right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds.
Also, all of your projections, expectations, separations, rejections, and judgments again, because judgments are really fucking in everywhere. Yeah, destroy and create those too.
Yeah. So you want to do both sides before you start asking, because otherwise you're coming from all these fixed points of view and projections, and you're just really looking for the right answer to match your judgments, not your awareness.
Another fantastic tool for especially a large decision like this is, you're bound to have other people in your life who have an opinion. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to have a point of view. Everyone's going to be like, oh, the market's crappy right now, you better hold on to it. Or like, don't refinance because the bankers are crooks. Or, there's so many different points of view that other people have. And that's with the projections. And so when something comes up about this, just ask the question, who does that belong to? So every time you have a reaction, or anytime you have a strong response to the situation, who does that belong to? Return to sender. Who does that belong to? Return to sender. So, just be aware of what might be coming at you. This is judgments from people who think you should make more money, or you're going to lose money, or you're so lucky you always make money when you sell something. Like, there's good and bad judgments coming at you, and just being aware of, like, who does that belong to? Is that really mine? That's another helpful question.
Yeah, good point. Hey, didn't you just do Right Relationship for you, or Relationship Done Different, or something?
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just remembered that.
That's right. You cracked us on live pretty much as soon as we picked up today, so we didn't have a chance to talk, and so here we are. Yes, I did Relationship Done Different. That was 4 hours on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Wow.
Yeah, with Brendan and Simone.
And?
Yeah, it was my first time I've done Relationship Done Different, and it was really good. It was very, very interesting, and it was, I think a lot of people expect Relationship Done Different class will be how to have a right relationship. And right relationship for you is not anymore a class, because people were coming to it saying, I have a wrong relationship, fix it to make it a right relationship.
Yeah.
And that's not the idea at all. And Brendan, in fact, got a little bit frustrated at a point where people were asking him how to do it right. And he's like, every single person on the planet has a different relationship ideal or situation that works for them. You are going to do it different from everyone else. That's why it's called Relationship Done Different. And the last day he's like, fine, after this, I'm going to make a little 10-minute thing, and I'll tell all of you exactly how to have the right relationship in this reality. And you're all going to hate it because it requires you to give up yourself. But that's what you all want to hear. So fine, I'll give it to you.
It's so true. It is so true. Even if you, like, I notice, even if you go on a second date, like the first date you might have you, but the second date you're already so what's interesting, I think it was the Maestro meeting that we had yesterday. Dane was saying people are externally centered, and to be self-centered, but he's like, it's not really self-centered, it's self-aware. To add in self-awareness rather than only going with the externally
Right.
centered or aware. And that is so much of what happens with relationship and what you're aware of as a sensitive person, an aware person. You're so aware of everybody else and all of their stuff, and it's really building that muscle of self-awareness and what actually works for me in this situation, not against, but included in.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what we went through in my guided transformation that ended last week.
That's right. I was going to ask you
So
about that as
awesome.
well. Yeah.
God, I can't wait to do more of those.
Yeah.
All of this stuff is just so amazing. Go and take more classes, everybody.
And another one of the cool things about the Relationship Done Different class is that, you know, a lot of people when they come to Access think that Access has a judgment that relationships are bad and you shouldn't have one. And Gary has said this a million times. We've both heard it. He's like, I'm not against relationships. I'm against shitty, bad relationships that cause you to give up you. I mean, if you can have a relationship, right?
You know, it's your own point of view projected on Access.
Yeah. And I mean, we have both seen that a lot of people have started taking Access classes, and then the relationship they were in has ended, and a lot of people will blame Access for that. And I mean, it's just that the person's aware of what they have been choosing, and then they're aware of greater possibilities, and then they choose something different. And you know,
some relationships actually get better.
Yes, absolutely.
So they change and they create more fun and more joy and more possibilities. And sometimes they change and they create separation. And hey, both ways, it's more joy.
Yeah.
It's not more disaster. So
sorry, I'm just laughing because I was thinking about when you said some of the relationships get better. I was thinking, yeah, all those ones where women come to class and Gary says, give him a blowjob, and then they go home and give him a blowjob. Like, I know it sounds funny, but
it's true.
It has worked. I mean, I've been in classes where women have come to class and said, I was at class a year ago and you told me to go home and give him a blowjob and he will pay for me to come to class again. And it worked. Like, men they're just dumb. Like, it's not that hard. It's not that hard.
Well, if you have a man who pays for everything, that's a great way to do it.
Sure. I mean, everyone has a different situation, and you know, some guys are looking for women to pay for stuff.
For me, but just saying.
I'm not saying that there's a formula. I'm just saying when you talked about some relationships improving, that's kind of that's what I thought of.
It's true. There are some people who've gone through a lot of these classes and they also realize, like, wow, I've been a bitch to myself and I've been a bitch to my partner. And when you come off of all of that judgment and you actually start being kinder to you, you can be kinder to your partner as well. And it just creates a whole different relationship.
Yeah.
But you got to have that willingness to let go of all the structures, all the decisions, all the projections, all the expectations of yourself and of them, and look at what really works. And it's not something that you can just, you know, it's not like clear the table and you're done. It takes a bit of digging because we've really gone deep with some of our judgments and decisions.
Yes.
That, you know, it's their fault and their problem, and you know, and you want to be right, or you make yourself wrong and you're like caved in. But you need to be you and allow them to be them, and then see if it works.
I'm sorry, I just looked down here very quickly, and we have a comment from Gloria who says you need to ask your wealth manager. I think I'm a little bit late on that.
Oh, that's probably with regard to Miguel.
Ah, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, I don't think blowjobs to your partner has to do with your wealth manager. Like, I'm a little bit late on that.
Unless your wealth
Sorry.
manager.
I mean, everybody, as we said, everyone has a different relationship situation. It's the relationship done different and relationship as it works for you. So whatever you have going on, don't judge yourself. Just do what works for you. And that's the thing. I mean, you look at, I mean, they probably did a clearing on people wanting to have their relationship at least 2 or 3 times. People who look at Simone and Brendan and like, oh, that's what I want to have. I want to be like you guys. And they're like, no, don't do that. Just because we're writing books and having classes and facilitating, please don't decide that you need to be us. You need to be you. It's about choosing for you. I mean, access it's facilitating people to know, you to know that you know.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that makes it so challenging is that we're always looking outside of us for a reference point for how you do things. And you know, what we grew up with doesn't work. And you know, all of our friends and peers doesn't work. And then you see Simone and Brendan and it works. And it's like, wow, I want something like that. But that's what works for them. And I think it's going to take more people popping and showing, you know, different possibilities
Yeah.
for people to really get to that. And it's also, again, really, really getting clear with yourself what actually works for you and what you would like to create. I was saying in another class I was doing that, you know, when I first came to Access and Gary was doing classes, like he would say, so what would you like to create? And I was just blank. I had no idea. I was so programmed to create the utopian ideal. I did it really well, but it wasn't really what I wanted. It was just what I learned that that's what you do. So it took a long time to really dig and find out what brings me joy and what makes me sparkle. And people need to spend some time with themselves, which is one of the great things about this pandemic is that you have the time and the space to dig and to be with yourself. It might be a little uncomfortable and you might want to be distracted and do all kinds of other things, but if you even just take, you know, an hour a day and ask yourself some questions and be with you and perceive your energy and allow that to shine more.
And kind of touching on what you said a couple minutes ago, one of the greatest things for me has been seeing people start facilitating, like Dane and Brendan and other people stepping up and facilitating, because when you first take a class with Gary, you're like, oh, that's how you're supposed to facilitate.
Right.
And then you take a class with Dane and you're like, oh, there's another possibility. And then you take a class with Brendan or Simone or Shannon. And every one of them is just being them.
Yeah.
And they facilitate a different way. They facilitate differently for different people. And none of them is right.
Yeah.
And all of them are just being them, you know? And it means that you can be you. You don't need to imitate. You don't need to emulate. You just need to be you, right? And you do that in relationship. You do that when you facilitate. You do that in every situation. So that's why the core of Access is questions. It's not decisions. It's not even advice. I mean, people say like, oh, give me some advice. I don't give advice. I ask you questions to kind of facilitate you to know that you know. And even as a facilitator, you get awareness of like, oh, this is totally their deal. You cannot tell them that. You can't tell people their
Right.
shit. They
No.
need to know it.
You can
So, like,
only point
yeah,
them in that little general direction by asking a question about it.
yeah, yeah,
I know, it's really interesting. It really is.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so you wrapped up your, what was it called again?
Guided transformation.
That's right. And this is, how long was the program for that?
It was 6 calls.
Right. And
Just
are
1
you doing
hour.
another one? You're
I'm
doing another one soon?
I'm gonna have a meeting with my team and figure out, how often we're gonna do them, but maybe every 2 months or something. I don't know. It is so great, and it's even good for people who aren't in a relationship but are looking for something, because it really
Yeah.
helps you get clear on you. And every person, when they started, I asked them, what they wanted to get out of it, and they were like, clarity
Right.
about this, clarity about my relationship, clarity about, what else I'd like going forward. And the steps and the tools are organized in such a way that it's sort of like a drafting kit for building the future you'd love to be having. I was saying that it's like when you
Wait,
look,
is that in the promotional materials? Have you?
no, I just said it, but it's
Okay,
like,
well, don't
when
forget
you
it.
go to foundation, it's like going into Home Depot and there's like every single tool and all the everything that you could possibly want. But
Yes.
if somebody said, what are you going to build? And you're like, I don't know. I have no idea what I'm going to build, but there's like all these tools. So then you go home and you're like, I have no idea. This is pointing you to, okay, where are you? What would you like? Let's write down some of those things that, bring out that joy for you. And then start clearing the past and using the tools to clear that so that you can get even more clear, and then start learning your navigation system. And it was just really, it was so fun and so awesome. Even my sister took it. I think she was like, wow, this was surprisingly really good.
Like, my sister can do that? What? Huh.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
And I finished my audiobook, and so that's going to be ready on my website soon. I'm so excited about that too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, you should have a big old book launch, and you should, do a promotion where you give away like chapter 1 or something, or like have people, I don't know. There's got a lot of stuff you can do, but big announcement.
I would love to hear your
Exciting.
ideas. We can do it off the show.
Yes. Yeah, we'll talk
But I
about.
would love to hear your ideas. That would be awesome.
Okay. Cool. Um, yeah. So coming up next, what do you have coming up next? You got something?
Well, in a half an hour, if anybody's like quick to jump, I'm doing an intro, Finding Your Sparkle, which is,
Oh,
that like digging and finding out who you are and what it is that
right.
you would like to be and do.
Okay.
And then it's followed up with 4 days of committing to you, to your living.
Nice. All right.
Yep.
Next thing I have is COP the first weekend of September. So if anybody wants to jump on, I'd love to see you.
COP. Who's that with? Is that
Simone.
with? Oh,
It's with Simone, actually. Yeah.
we were gonna
This
do that.
coming weekend is the business mentor class with the 4 of
Oh,
them.
right.
Yeah.
No,
That'll be Houston time. Anyway.
that ought to
All
be
right.
amazing too.
So you have a really full morning.
I do, and of course the people are like doing the lawn, and I hear all these machines going out my window.
I can't hear any of them.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I can't hear any of them. It sounds totally fine.
All
Yeah,
right.
nothing. Anyway.
Awesome.
Well, thank you. Good to see you again.
That's so good to see you.
And thanks to everybody who chipped in and some comments. And it's always great to see, our regulars. And we'll be here again next week. Yeah.
All right.
Have fun.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.